Good afternoon and welcome all to the last of our Marketing Masters series on websites. Now, really it's all been leading up to this over the past 5 webinars. We've taken a look at all different aspects of digital marketing, from social media engagement to advert campaigns to content marketing, all of that sort of stuff. And the reason why we've kept website development to the last part is really we see it as the most important part of digital marketing. And the reason why we say that is essentially it's the gravitational pull, right? It all comes back to your website and how engaging that is. It doesn't matter how good your AdWords campaigns are or your Facebook marketing, anything like that. It's all going to gravitate and bring your leads back to your website. So we want to make sure that we have a really engaging website. Now, with me today, I've got a special guest on the line. We've got George. I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name, George. Do you want to jump in and say hello?
Hi, everyone. It's George Smith.
Fantastic. Now, George, you and I have worked together for a little while in the past on a couple of little projects here. But just to give everyone a background of George, he ran a company. He was managing director and co-founder of a company called the Pixel Lab. They were a creative agency that helped a lot of businesses right across Australia to help get their websites up and running and in order. You've done some really amazing work. George, did you want to just give us a bit of a rundown of some of the work that you've done in the past?
Yeah, so my career actually started out even when I was in school, building websites for companies. That was back in 2005 or thereabouts. Started a business with a few friends, had our parents driving us around to meetings and so on. And really only up until my role here at Tekspace have I've been, for that entire time, involved in building websites and building apps. And at the Pixel Lab, we started out building exclusively websites to help our customers grow their businesses. And we then moved into app development and did some amazing work, or the team did anyway, building stuff for the Apple Watch, and at a time when mobile design was kind of in its infancy. And today at Tekspace, I'm our Chief Commercial Officer. And so some of what I learned from the Pixel Lab is being transferred across, given that my responsibilities here are sort of overlapping into marketing, which is sort of what we're going to be discussing today, how to go about building a website, but with some insights from strategic marketing thinking.
Yeah. I have to say, George, of the many people that I get to interact with throughout my career, you're definitely one of the standout people forward thinking in this space. And I think the most remarkable thing about it is the business lens that you apply to it with some of the clients that we've worked with and some of the discussions that we've had in the past, coming from the sense of a business owner, has just been really important. All right. So just to recap on some of the topics that we've covered off in the past. So there were really 6 aspects that we've covered off when we talked about brand being the first step. We then moved into mobile, how to engage with your clients in a mobile aspect, social media marketing, content marketing, digital advertising, and email. And then as I may mention today, we're focusing purely on website, because we believe really at the center of all of that digital marketing strategy, you have to have a really crackshot website at the middle, which helps bring your funnel through. Okay, so we're going to talk just really quickly. George, do you want to just provide some input from your aspect as to the importance of what a website should, how it should work for you within your business?
Sure. I guess sort of as you were saying, Jeremy, the website really is kind of central. It's a central place with regard to digital marketing. And I know you've spoken about content marketing, you did a bit on, paid advertising and so on. These are all methods we can use to build an audience and bring people to our website. But the website's really where the rubber hits the road, because it's where we turn impressions or eyeballs on our content ultimately into customers. And that's why it's so important and why all these things sort of feed into one another. And today, rather than sort of give disparate tips, I think what we're going to do is look at each of the stages that you go through with a digital agency or with a web professional to build a website, and talk a bit about some commercial tips and tricks that you can use as a business owner to get the most out of that journey and understand more about the context of the steps you're going to go through so that you get a better outcome out the other end.
Yeah, fantastic. So the first part that we generally recommend when working to develop a new website, whether it be a refresh of your existing company or you're starting a new business or whatever it may be, is really around the strategic plan. So identifying what's the goal of the website, right? Is it to educate clients? Is it for new leads, capture new leads within your business? George, do you want to just talk about some of the key metrics that you believe a business should focus on before they've even talked to a creative agency to help out with developing a website?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the key takeaway here is really if you think about your website, or if you're thinking about your website as a brochure, you're sort of thinking about it the wrong way. It's not the sort of thing you just want to sort of get up and have done. The most successful projects I've seen in terms of lead acquisition and in terms of their ability to sort of drive growth for your company, those projects really thought about having a goal in mind, and they were very measurable goals. And really, the only way to know whether your website's successful is to know how your existing website, if you've got one, is performing. And I guess a lot of the time when people start building a website, they really have no idea about how much to spend on building it. And that's because they have no concept of what it's costing them to acquire a customer today and what the lifetime value of that customer would be if they were to win them. And these two metrics are really important. CAC and LTV are super important from this point of view. If you knew, for example, that you're going to hold on average a customer, say, for 5 years, and over that 5 years, that customer is going to be worth, $50,000 to your business. I don't know whether that's realistic in this space, Jeremy, but let's just...
Yeah, it's definitely realistic.
And you knew that your website was going to earn you at least, let's say one customer a quarter, so 4 customers a year. Then you could absolutely put forward the business case that you should spend $20, $50, maybe even more $1,000 on building the thing, right? So I guess these metrics are important because they sort of inform your budget, but they also give you a benchmark about the success of your new website once it's built, which is super important because once the website's built, you don't just want to leave it there. You want to keep optimizing it, which is, I guess, something we're going to get into a little bit later. Hopefully that sort of gives you a bit of an overview of this piece.
Yeah, 100%. As an outsider, on a lot of the firms that we're working with, I think that customer acquisition cost is a metric that not many firms are tracking, right? And when it comes to pushing hard in just digital marketing as a whole, right, like understanding your budget, how much money you plan on spending, it should always come back to currently, if we just project out where you're currently going, if you can continue along this trajectory, that's going to give you an idea of a budget, but then also applying some ambitious goals towards that, right? So if we're saying we want to turn up our funnel and we want to grow our business by 30% over the next financial year, right, then what metrics do you have to put? So how much more money do we have to spend in digital marketing? How many new leads do we need to acquire? What's our conversion rate? And really at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. It's a mathematical equation, right? Understanding how much money you can spend and what your targets are. And then it's really just about turning up that dial to suit, what the strategic plan of the business is. So there's definitely 2 metrics there that I think everyone should walk away with today and look a little into is start to figure out what your customer acquisition cost is and definitely start to calculate, the lifetime value of your client as well, how long they're staying with the firm, what the revenue is. And if you want to take it to the next level, which we'll be talking about in our future series, is around efficiency and obviously maximizing profitability and being efficient within providing the service to the client.
Just on that too, Jeremy, you raised a few good points here. If anyone's interested to understand how to go about measuring CAC, the way to go about this is to simply look at the full cost of marketing as it relates to any given marketing channel and the number of leads or new customers that you've acquired via that channel and sort of divide it backwards. Yep. What this implies is that you're going to need to have some sort of instrumentation in the background to look at attribution. So it's perfectly reasonable if you're not doing this already, particularly if you're a small business, because a lot of businesses don't do it. But if you want to get a sense of what CAC is, just take your marketing spend out of your balance sheet and divide it by the number of customers that marketing has brought you, or what you think that might be. And LTV is sort of similar. You think about on average how long you keep a customer, and how much money they spend, typically, removing outliers. And then you end up with those two figures.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So the next stage that we move on to is building the content for the website. Now, I think you in our planning leading up to this webinar, you hit the nail on the head right there. There's a lot of people that think that you guys spend a bunch of money on making this website aesthetically pleasing, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to the content, right? And you've got some fantastic philosophies around understanding the client's journey to become a client with the firm and their buying journey. Did you want to just fill our audience in today on what that should look like and what that should be centered around, your content?
Yeah. I think there's two things to touch on with regard to content. The first is how to think about it and how to approach it. And the second is what sort of content to create. The first thing, when it comes to how to think about content, you sort of touched on this. You might engage a digital agency to build a website for you, and they're going to be really good at that, hopefully anyway. They're going to be good at building a website, thinking of all the technical ramifications, making something that's beautiful. But they're not going to be good at writing content that speaks to your audience and speaks to your customers in a way they understand it. One of the advantages you have about being a business leader is that you're at the coalface, right? You get to speak with customers, and people tend to buy either because they've got a problem that they need help with, a burning pain, or because they see some benefit in what it is you're doing that would give them an opportunity at something they don't already have. And you would hear this all the time with your customers when you're meeting with them for the first time, as financial planners and accountants. Why is it they're looking to engage with you? And what problems are you solving, or what opportunities are you creating for them that they don't have today? These conversations really fuel amazing content. And you can have a beautiful website, but if it doesn't have a message, it won't convert. And there's no point in having a beautiful website that doesn't earn your business any money, right? And this kind of, for a long time, kind of pained me to admit, because I've come from a design background, and for a long time I thought that design mattered a lot, and it does, but the message matters more. It matters more that whatever you say resonates with the people that are on that website, because that's what's going to encourage them to click the contact button or pick up the phone. And when you're dealing with some of these digital agencies, they might be able to give you a bit of a framework to follow. They might be able to give you some filler content, but you need to be the voice of your business. There's no one else that can do it. And if you're a small company, you're at a tremendous advantage, because over time, the distance that you will have, the distance that there is between the website content and you, or the people who are at the coalface of the customer, is going to increase. So take advantage of the fact that you have this information and you have this empathy, and write amazing, compelling content that convinces people to get in touch. So that's the first way to think about it. The second thing to discuss here is what sort of content to write. And I guess the goal of any marketing is really to pull buyers down the buying journey. Everyone starts being completely unaware that they've got a problem or that there's an opportunity that they could capitalize on. And then they sort of realize that they've got this problem, or there's this opportunity. They start researching all the solutions. They find suppliers, and hopefully your business is one of them, that can help them solve that problem, and so on and so forth, until ultimately they become a customer. And the job of your marketing efforts is to pull people through that funnel and keep them aligned to your business the entire way along. So when we think about content for the website, what you really want is content that sort of speaks to each step of this buyer's journey. And I would really encourage you all to map out this journey and think about the pages that might align to it along the way. I guess you want to be able to articulate in plain terms what the problem is that you're solving, right? Or what opportunity there is, the solution you have to the problem, or the way you go about delivering the opportunity. Once you've painted out these two things, you want to sort of show people the vision of what it is the future would look like once they've engaged with you. And that's really what your services pages should cover off. And then you're going to have a heap of support page, or what I call support pages. These are pages like your contact page, page about your company, the people who are doing the work, and so on. These are less important because they're lower down on the funnel. No one who's just heard of you is going to be interested in the profile of the people doing the work. What they're more going to be interested in is the services you offer, that you understand that their problem and how you're going to go about fixing them. Yeah. So in a sort of broad sense, this is how you should be thinking about content, and I would encourage you all to really take ownership at this stage of the process.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic, George. Now, if I just wanted to make mention, guys, if you've got any questions, please push it through to the Q&A box and we'll address it towards the end of the session today as well. Now, generally what will happen after you've gone through those two steps of, first off, understanding the strategy of what you're trying to achieve, and then second, starting to develop content, is now where the design process starts to come in. Okay, so this is, at this point, you've now started, you're in the early stages of engaging with a creative agency, and you're starting to scope out where they can provide assistance, right? So you can definitely engage with the creative agency at the content side of things. As George said, they can help you generate just a wireframe. You can always put your personal touch on there. But then from here, now we start to get into the creative process. Now, generally what will happen after you engage with a firm is they'll go through the wireframe process, okay? So at that point, they take your content and they help you visualize how your content will be delivered to the end client. And you'll generally see that it will look something like this. They'll give you an understanding of what the website will look like, how the content will be displayed, the buyer's journey as they navigate through that content within the project. And then generally from there, you've got a decent understanding of the scale of the project, how much it's going to cost, all of that sort of stuff as well. Is there anything, George, that you believe is critical in the wireframe stage as the end client of a creative agency should be focusing on? If our attendees were to approach a creative agency, any tips with them at this stage?
Well, the benefit, I think, of the wireframing phase, it shows you how the content sort of comes to life on the page. So in a sense, you want to make sure those wireframes are interactive so that you can click through the pages and sort of get a feel for how the website might come together to see whether that pain or gain, the solution to the problem, and the vision of the future is well crafted and it's coming together sort of cohesively. Don't be too concerned with how it looks. Don't be too concerned about fonts, the position of text, the position of buttons to too much of a degree. What you really want to make sure here is that the content can be consumed in a way that's compelling. And this also gives you an opportunity, because up until this point, you've probably been writing your content in something like Microsoft Word. It gives you an opportunity to shape the content so that it fits into the skeleton of the website, because the way we write Word documents is very different to the way we write web copy. Web copy is usually, little chunks of text with headings. By the way, the headings are the most important thing. Almost no one will read your website. They'll read the headings, and it's those headings that actually compel people to buy. So this stage gives you a good opportunity to see which headings are appearing in which order, and how that buying journey is coming together as a whole.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right, so the next stage that we move across to is the visual design stage. Now, this is essentially after they've taken the wireframe, they've taken your content, they're now starting to build out a visual representation of what the end product will look like. Okay, now that's not the end product in itself. They will use some just design software to kind of create a finalized, polished product of what you can expect. Just before I moved on to this, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about your interaction with the creative agency and who you'd be dealing with. In most instances with a decent creative agency, you'll have your project lead. They'll usually be responsible for the sales, scoping, and the timelines. Then you'll move into the visual design aspect, and that's usually a designer who will be responsible for creating the visuals of the website. And then lastly is the developer. And George, I think you had some really good insights into finding the right developer. You'll see synergy among all aspects of this project, among every person that interacts, right? So you had a really good tip here where you were saying, I'll let you jump in here and just share the tip
sure.
with our attendees.
So I guess to give some context, the visual design piece kind of takes the wireframes that are sort of like blueprints and makes them beautiful, right? And here is where you're essentially looking at, you're not looking at a working website, but you're looking at what your working website will look like once it's been built. And what you want to look for in a creative agency is one that really has an eye for detail. And as a business owner who knows nothing about building websites, it can be really difficult to know whether someone has that, whether a team has that eye for detail. But the easiest way to tell whether there's deep, like, technical and aesthetic cohesion throughout this team is to, when you're evaluating these agencies, ask them for a copy of the creative work and a copy of, and to look at the build. So once the website's live, look at the live website and compare it to the creative from this stage of the process. Because good designers, you notice here the visual design people and the developers are different teams. Good designers will have an understanding of what's possible in the web browser, and they will make design decisions allowing for the limitations of the web browser. And good developers will care about design, and they will go to efforts and lengths to make sure that whatever the designers come up with is executed exactly, right? Now, there's going to be little discrepancies because web browsers are a bit nuts and they don't like playing ball sometimes. But ideally, you end up with something that's as close to the design in the web browser as possible. And this is indicative of a whole heap of underlying operational and skill-related things going on in the background. Now, in all of my years, I've never been asked this as someone who's run a design company as a professional in the web industry. No one's ever said, hey, give me your design work. I want to compare it against the build. So if you ask this question, expect a little bit of kickback. But in my opinion, like, if I was going to engage an agency, this is one of the first questions I would ask.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right? It's seeing that synergy between two different teams. It's extremely important, right? The last thing that you want to see is they can't execute on their visual design and expectations aren't set accordingly. So, yeah, fantastic. All right, so after the visual design process, we move across to the build stage. That's obviously where the developers come in and code up everything and get the website to the point where it's live. It's probably not going to be too much interaction with you guys as the end client with the firm at that point in time. And you won't have too much interaction there. From there, you've got the stage 5, which is going to be the test and deploy. So usually there'll be a peer review of the website. They'll go through and make sure everything's working correctly, all your content has come through, grammatical errors fixed, hyperlinks work, everything connects and joins correctly. And then generally from there, I'd imagine that they'd reach out to you and talk about the time to go live, and they'd say, we've got a go live date, and then they'd launch the website live.
There's a little piece in here as well. What a good agency as well will have, or a good web professional will have, a list of things that they want to check off before they deploy. Especially if you've got an existing website, you want to make sure that all the redirects are in place, because you've got existing pages that are going to be removed and replaced with new pages that mean the same thing. You want to make sure that they're all linked across. You want to make sure that Google is aware of the change through the Search Console tool. You want to make sure that all your tracking codes are in place. There's a heap of things that actually have to happen just before you deploy that will cause you a world of pain if you don't get right. And a good agency will have a list of these things for you. Another thing too, just to sort of come back a little bit, when it comes to evaluating agencies, and that's not the slide we're on, but you need to be careful about using lead generation as a metric for determining how good they are. As I said before, a lot of agencies don't really have input in, the way that messages are written, and message is what drives conversion. So they may, on one hand, they may brag to you and say they've built this amazing website that converts. If they do, ask them if they had anything to do with content, and ask them if how they at least contributed to the conversion rate as opposed to the design and build of the website. And if you ask the question and they can't really give you an answer, it's probably okay, because they won't know much about it and they won't really have had much input. So just think about things from that point of view too.
Yeah. I think a good tip here is, if you're looking to scale up your business and you're looking to spend a decent amount of money on your marketing and stuff like that, think about consulting with a copywriter as a tip, right? You may be able. Good thing with copywriters, you can give them a decent amount of content and they'll write it in a way that's a little bit more persuasive with their specialty. So, throwing a bit of a mix into it, definitely looking at a content and a copywriter can help. And some creative agencies I know bring that skill set in-house and offer it as a part of the holistic package, which is really important as well. Fantastic. Now, the last part there, and I think this was the most important for you, George, was the optimization piece with the website. So as we made mention at the very start, right, it's not the sort of thing that you just launch a website and set and forget, and then in 5 years' time, 5, 10, 15 years' time, talk about it's time to do a website update. It's the sort of thing that you should be continually monitoring, continually optimizing, and making changes as necessary. Do you want to provide some insights here?
Yeah, sure. Once you've built your website, what you've really got is a foundation for the future. It's definitely not the end of the story. And if you end the project here, you don't have to keep engaging the agency and paying a bucket load of money. I mean, if you've got the cash, great. But if you end the journey here, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. Let's say, for example, you get 1,000 people to the homepage every month, right? And one of them ends up looking at services, right? Your services pages. If you've got a conversion rate of like 5%, it's going to take 500 months for you to get a lead, right? Now, if what you did was pay attention to the way that people are using your website with tools like Google Analytics, you would see this. You would see, why are we getting 1,000 people to the homepage and no one's going anywhere else on the site? What is it? Is there a button that's not right? Is it that the copy isn't compelling enough? Is the navigation hard to use, or is it breaking on mobile? What is it that's preventing people from moving through? And so if you kept monitoring and optimizing, you would be optimizing your user experience, and therefore optimizing conversion rates, and it's that conversion rate that's really going to drive growth for the company. So that's why it's really important to continue to look at the data, see how people are using it, and see whether, like, what your conversion rates are. How many people come to the website, become leads, and then how many leads become customers. And that last conversion rate is kind of important too, because what you might find is that your new website generates a lot of leads, but none of them are really converting into customers. So maybe the website's being advertised to the wrong audience, or maybe it's advertised to the right audience, but like the right segment, but communicating the wrong things. So that's important to look at too. And then as you become more sophisticated, you can start tracking things like the buyer's journey. If you've got multiple services in your business that you offer, you can use intelligent marketing automation tools to determine, which buyer the user is likely to be. And so let's say, for example, you got a fruit shop and you sell vegetables online and you sell fruit online. Is this person more likely a vegetable buyer, given they're looking at tomatoes, even though tomatoes are a fruit? What a terrible choice. They're looking at cabbages and carrots, or are they a fruit buyer because they're looking at apples and bananas? And then, where in that buyer's journey that we spoke about are they? Are they sort of looking at the varieties of bananas and they're further down the funnel? Are they looking at a pricing page and they're really down the funnel and they're ready to buy? Or are they just sort of researching about what a banana is and what it might taste like? And over time, as you build this sophistication in how you go about measuring use of your website, you have more granular control over conversion rates, and are more likely to have a successful experience having a website that drives leads and grows your company.
Or more importantly, if you want to attract a bunch of new leads, create a new diet that's based around vegetables, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the power of content marketing there. So, yeah.
It is, yeah.
All right. So we're going to open it up to any questions. George, was there anything else that you wanted to add in so far today?
I guess the only thing I'd say is, once you build a website, don't expect it to work straight away. Content marketing or inbound marketing is it's a slow burn to get the machine rolling. But once it's done, like once you've got your website up and you've written some articles and you're producing content on a regular basis, it will give you a lower CAC, so it will cost you less to win customers. And it also tends to increase lifetime value, which is really great, as opposed to outbound marketing, which is paid media, which I kind of view as being a bit like a tap, where you kind of turn it on, turn the money tap on, and leads come out. But as soon as you turn the money tap off, they go away. So just be patient, but work hard at it, and particularly own the content piece, and you'll see your business grow in time. And it could take years, by the way. This is not, when I say a long time, I don't mean a month. I mean 12 months, 18 months, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, well, guys, I'm going to ask everyone to just stay on a little bit, because I just wanted to give a plug to our next series and give you guys a bit of a teaser as to what to expect. But next year, we're going to be launching a new series, and it's going to be around practice efficiency. So following on from the theme of digital marketing, hopefully taking on board some of the strategies that we've given to you guys, you've started to increase some leads into your business. What you should be thinking about now is profitability, right? So how can we provide this service as efficiently as possible? And we're going to be getting some really cool people involved in this series. We've got some really good tips and tricks to help you guys with the process. But to give you just a sneak peek, I'd imagine that most of you at this particular point in time, I know there's a lot of financial advisors tuned into our webinar, your standard advice process probably looks something like this, right? So the whole engagement piece and then moving into implementation and each of the steps along the way. The next series, what we're going to be talking about is the new digital advice journey. The good thing about working for My Prosperity, we attract some really good talent, such as Barry Jamie, who is one of our newest staff members, who is a financial advisor, ran his own financial planning company. And what he's been working with here with me is to map out the digital engagement process with new clients, and essentially how the personal wealth portal fits into the advice process, how you can start to leverage technology such as Calendly and Loom to make that a process as efficiently as possible and as profitable as you can for your firm. So definitely tune in for our series next year, starting in the new year, on practice efficiencies. We've got some really cool tips and tricks. Now, if you're an existing partner and you need help, please do not hesitate to contact me. You've got my email address there on the screen, jeremyjohnston@myprosperity. And if you're not a partner with My Prosperity yet, feel free to join up or contact our team via info@myprosperity.com as well.
Can I view previous content from the series?
Yes, you can. So if you just head along to our website and you go to My Prosperity /Marketing Masters, I think it is, Marketing Masters series. We've got a website. We've put all of the videos and the previous series all up in here. So yeah, feel free to jump onto that. I'll send through a copy of the URL to you after we finish today as well. Fantastic. All right, guys, we'll call it at that. Thanks again for your time, and Merry Christmas, and speak to you all in the new year.